Hi, welcome to my channel, Second PUC Accountancy, Learn, Understand and Excel. So today we are going to see a special account that is under the death of a partner when we have to prepare deceased partner's executor's account. We had seen in our previous videos who is an executor. So executor is a legal representative of a deceased partner. So generally in the question they ask us to prepare partner's capital account, that is the deceased partner's capital account. At times they can ask us to prepare the executor's account directly. So in this case the students are advised to prepare the executor's account with all the adjustments that are given, like similar to the deceased partner's capital account. So here only difference is that the opening and the closing balance of the executor's account. All other entries will remain the same, similar to the entries which we had made in the deceased partner's capital account. So now let us see a question where we have to prepare deceased partner's executor's account. So let us see the question given here where we have to prepare deceased partner's executor's account. A, B and C are partners in a business sharing profits and losses in the ratio of 2:2:1 respectively. The balance sheet as at 31st March 2024 stood as follows. So given is the balance sheet. Let's see the liabilities side. On the liability side, first we have is the capital accounts for A 60,000, B 1 lakh and C rupees 40,000. So the total capital is rupees 2 lakhs given in the outer amount column. Next we have on the liability side is the reserve fund 50,000 and creditors rupees 1 lakh. Now moving on to the assets, we have cash at bank rupees 20,000, stock rupees 30,000, sundry debtors rupees 80,000, investments rupees 70,000, furniture rupees 35,000 and buildings rupees 1,15,000. So the total of the balance sheet is 3,50,000. Now below is the adjustments given to us. Here C died on 30th September 2024. The partnership deed provides the following. The following are the adjustments. First adjustment, the deceased partner will be entitled to his share of profit at the date of death calculated on the basis of previous year's profit. The second adjustment is the deceased partner will be entitled to his share of goodwill of the firm calculated on the basis of 3 years purchases of average of last 4 years profit. The profits of last 4 years are given as below. 2021 is rupees 80,000, 21-22 is rupees 50,000, 22-23 is rupees 40,000 and the year 23-24 is rupees 30,000, and this goodwill should be treated as per AS 26. The third adjustment is interest on capital, that is to be allowed at 12% per annum. And the last adjustment, the drawings of the deceased partner, that is C had made drawings up to the date of death is rupees 10,000. So with all these adjustments here, we have to prepare C's executor's account. So it's not the deceased partner's capital account, but directly we are going to prepare the executor's account. Now let's see the working note of all the adjustments given here. Now as per the information given, let's see here, the old partners are A, B and C and their profit sharing ratio is 2:2:1, which we can write it as 2/5, 2/5 and 1/5. Out of all these three partners, C is the deceased partner. So C is the deceased partner and his share is 1/5. Now since C is the deceased partner, we have to find out the gain ratio. the gain ratio between A and B, that is leaving the deceased partner, the remaining will be the gain ratio 2 is to 2, that is 2 is to 2, which can also be written as 1 is to 1, or it can be 1 by 2 and 1 by 2. Now here it becomes necessary to calculate the intervening period of the deceased partner, as the deceased partner died on 30th September. So the intervening period from the previous balance sheet, that is 1st April till 30th September, will be 6 months. So 6 months is the intervening period of the deceased partner. Now moving on to the adjustments given to us, let's see what are the entries that has to be taken to the deceased partner's executor's account. The entries to be made in deceased partner's executor's account that has to be paid to the executor will be C's capital account. First we have to take from the balance sheet the capital of C and the share from the reserve fund, whether it is given or not in the adjustments. These are the two entries which have to be taken to the deceased partner's executor's account. So first is C's capital, that will be the opening balance of the executor's account, which will be 40,000. And then we have to take C's share in the reserve fund. That is, reserve fund is given as 50,000 in the balance sheet. So we have to only take the deceased partner's share 1 by 5, which will be 10,000, which also has to be shown on the credit side of the executor's account. Now moving on to the other adjustments which have to be considered to be entered in the executor's account. The other adjustments given here, the first adjustment is the deceased partner will be entitled to share the profit at the date of death, calculated based on the previous year's profit. So for this, we are going to refer to the next adjustment where the profits for 4 years are given. So the last year's profit is rupees 30,000. So we are going to take that 30,000 last year's profit and provide a share of profit to the deceased partner, which is C's accrued profits, which should be transferred to profit and loss suspense account on the credit side of the executor's account. The calculation will be last year's profit into C's share into the intervening period. That is, rupees 30,000 is the last year's profit, into her share will be 1 by 5, into intervening period 6 by 12, which is 3,000, which should be entered on the credit side of the executor's account. Now moving on to the next adjustment. Next adjustment says that we have to provide the share of goodwill of the firm that is calculated based on the 3 years purchase of the average of the last 4 years profits, and the last 4 years profits are given here. So this is the calculation we have to make. So see this adjustment. C's share of goodwill will be calculated as per the adjustment given, 3 years of purchase into the average profit. So first we need to calculate the average profit of the last 4 years profits. So the average profit will be 80,000 plus 50,000 rupees plus 40,000 plus 30,000 divided by 4 years, which will be 2 lakhs divided by 4 years. When you divide, you get 50,000. So this is the average profit. Now this average profit should be multiplied by 3 years purchase. So therefore, the goodwill of the firm will be 3 years purchase into the 50,000. That is the average profit. We will get 1,50,000. This is the total goodwill of the firm. But here we have to take only the deceased partner's share of goodwill. So C's share of goodwill will be 1,50,000 into 1 by 5. That is his or her share, which will be rupees 30,000. Now this 30,000 goodwill will be borne by the continuing partners A and B in the gain ratio. So rupees 30,000 is borne by A and B in the gain ratio, which we had already seen, that is 2:1, or we can write it as 1:1. So let's divide that goodwill of C into the gain ratio. So goodwill borne by A will be rupees 30,000 into 1 by 2 is 15,000 rupees, and goodwill borne by B will be 30,000 into 1 by 2, which will be 15,000 rupees. So both are bearing the goodwill of C equally. So this also will appear on the credit side of the executor's account. The next adjustment we are going to see is here the third adjustment, the interest on capital, that is to be allowed at 12% per annum. So interest on C's capital should be calculated at 12% per annum. The formula will be C's capital into the rate which is given in the adjustment into the intervening period. So interest is provided only for the intervening period. So the capital amount is rupees 40,000 into the rate is 12%, so 12 divided by 100 into the intervening period is 6 months, so it is 6 by 12, which we will get it as rupees 2,400. This also will appear on the credit side of the executor's account. Then the last adjustment is the drawings of the deceased partner should be provided up to the date of death rupees 10,000. So here the drawings of the deceased partner, that is C's drawings up to the date of death is 10,000. This is the amount which is the drawings made by the deceased partner during his lifetime in the current year, so which will appear on the debit side of the executor's account. So this is the treatment for the adjustments. Now let us move on to see the preparation of the executor's account with the given adjustments. So this is the executor's account, C's executor's account. Instead of writing it as C's capital account, we are going to directly prepare C's executor's account. The same format we are going to follow, debit and credit. The only difference is the opening balance. So here in the executor's account, we are preparing executor's account on behalf of C. So therefore, first we have to bring down C's capital account. So it will be C's capital account and not the balance brought down. So it is the executor who is going to prepare the account on behalf of C. So C's capital is 40,000, that is brought down on the credit side of the executor's account. Now next we have to provide the reserve, share of reserve for the deceased partner, which should be brought into the executor. So here this will appear on the credit side of executor's account as by reserve fund, that is 50,000 rupees is the reserve fund which should be calculated in his share, that is 1 by 5. So which will be 10,000 for the C, that is provided for the executor. Next we have to bring down is the profit or loss suspense account, a share in the profit, which will also appear on the credit side as by profit or loss suspense account, that is 30,000 into 1 by 5 into his intervening period, that is 6 by 12, which will be 3,000 rupees on the credit side of the executor's account. That is the C's profit. Next is the goodwill treatment. The goodwill has to be treated as per AS 26. So here C's goodwill will be borne by A and B in the gain ratio. So A is going to provide, show it on the credit side, A's capital account, the share of goodwill which is borne by him or her in the gain ratio will be 30,000 is the goodwill into 1 by 2, that is the gain ratio, 15,000 under executor's account. Similarly, B also has to bear the goodwill of C. So B's capital account will be written on the credit side. B's capital account, that is the share of goodwill which is borne by B in the gain ratio, for C, which will be 30,000 into 1 by 2, that is 15,000. So this is the goodwill which is borne by A and B for C, which is provided under the credit side of executor's account. The next adjustment is the interest on capital. So interest on capital is the amount which has to be provided for the deceased partner's executor. It will appear on the credit side as by interest on capital, that is 40,000 into 12 by 100 into 6 by 12, that will be 2,400 on the credit side. Now, the deceased partner had also made a drawings. So, the drawings will appear on the debit side of the executor's account. Two drawings, which is directly given up to the date of death, 10,000. So, now we have to find the balance. So, we have to take the total of the credit side. The total of the credit side is higher, which will be 85,400. So, write the same total on both the sides, 85,400. So the balance will be 85,400, the credit total, minus the debit total 10,000. The balancing figure will be transferred to on the debit side of the executor's account as balance carried down. So this should be written as balance carried down. That's the balance which is made for the executor. So this is the amount which has to be received by executor on behalf of the deceased partner. So see here, when we compare the capital account and the executor's account, this is the difference here. The opening balance will be by partner's capital account, that is the deceased partner's capital account, and the closing balance will be written as to balance carried down. So that's the difference here in the executor's account and the partner's capital account. So the balance amount that has to be paid to the executor on behalf of the deceased partner is 75,400. So with this, we will be completing the death of a partner. We'll see another new chapter in the next video. Thank you.